Welcome again, everyone, to our webinar for working with stock projects in Concrete Vision. Welcome. My name is Brent. I'm the project manager for Concrete Vision. And our presenter today will be Dan VanWieren, the founder and president of Concrete Vision, for the subject matter that we're going to be going over. The agenda today is we're going to be talking about what is a stock job project, how to schedule stock pieces on the fly, how to mark a piece as scrap/stock, how to add a piece to the project, how to move piece marks into a stock project, how to move piece marks from a stock project to a regular project, how to cut pieces down and what to do with the leftovers, what benefits the feature gives to customers who use the stock project and the stock project cut down features.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name's Dan VanWieren. I'm gonna kind of run through everything that we related to the stock jobs within Concrete Vision. First and foremost, what do we consider a stock job? In Concrete Vision, whenever we set up a new customer within Concrete Vision, all clients automatically have two jobs in the system. And those are, one is for admin, which would be where you would set your, you can set different, do timesheet functions and things like that. And then the other one is what we would consider to be the actual stock job itself. So if you were to go underneath your active jobs list, you'll see here that I have an admin job created, and then I have a GR stock job created. We typically would have a stock job for every single plant. So if you have multiple plants, you would typically have multiple stock jobs instead of having a single stock job between all the plants. Again, these are set up initially because there is an internal flag within the database that helps set the stock job so that it would be excluded from certain reporting, so that it wouldn't show up in regular job reporting. Same thing with our admin job. Outside of that, they pretty much are regular jobs. You would go in to your stock job under phases, and this is where you would define what products are going to be on the job, just like you would any other regular job. So in this example, it's primarily hollow core. And then I have a couple other products, barrier and curbing, catch basins, that also could be considered stock products. The next step in what you would have to do within Concrete Vision is underneath your production bed setup. On the production bed setup, you would select your plant, and there's a field called is stock bed, and you would mark that on any bed that you could possibly be producing pieces directly into your stock job. What that does is it actually adds an additional button on your schedule bed screen for adding a stock piece on the fly directly to a pour. So if you're pouring hollow core and you get to the end of the bed and you have an extra 20 feet, you can just add a piece directly from the screen without having to have that piece defined ahead of time. And you would do that just by clicking on this, that this is a stock bed that you can actually produce stock on. Now there's two different ways for actually producing the stock pieces. You can either schedule them on the fly, or you can create actual pieces ahead of time in your inventory underneath your view edit engineering production pieces. And so if I were to select this job, you would see that I've already created some generic hollow core pieces. They're all just sitting in the backlog, and these could be just scheduled just like any other piece from a normal project in the system. So on the on the plank job, on the stock job, I have two pieces here showing that there's two in inventory for each one of those pieces. And so if I came into here and added additional pieces, so if I upped my quantity to 5, it would just automatically add 5 more pieces into the backlog that could be then scheduled like normal pieces. So again, the first way to produce stock is if you're creating it on the fly. So within your production planning screen, you would select the plant that you're working at, select the bed that you're going to be producing on. I'm going to select my hollow core bed. I'm going to say that we're producing from this job my 8-inch hollow core. And then I'm going to just come in here and select these 5 pieces of my first piece of hollow core and add those to the bed. The bed shows that it's 100 feet long. I've only scheduled 62 feet. So I'm going to just add additional pieces to finish up that remaining square foot, that remaining length. And so there's a button up here called adds, that plus sign for add stock. Again, this is the button that shows up if you have a bed set for producing stock product. Otherwise, that button is hidden. That way you can control which beds is it actually available on, and people don't actually try to schedule stock on beds that they cannot schedule them on. So if I click that piece, it'll come up and it'll just ask me, what do I want to call the piece mark? So I'm going to just say it's a HC8, and I'll just put in 0518 for today's date. I'm going to put in 2 pieces. And I'm going to say each piece is 20 feet long, 4 feet wide, 8 inches tall. And so it's going to automatically go into the stock job by me selecting that phase. And so it automatically has selected which job I put in as a stock job up at the top. And then you can fill in all of your additional information. So on here, it's going to be 100 square foot. And then our cubic yards are going to be, so if I take 100 times 0.6667 divided by 27, this is going to be roughly 2.47 cubic yards. And we'll just say that the release strength is 2,500 and 3,000. You can fill in any additional information if you wanted to on here, but this, only the fields in red are required. You don't even necessarily have to put in the square foot cubic yardage, but we do that. I'm doing that in this example. And so when I hit save, what it's going to do is it automatically added those 2 pieces to the end of the bed. it shows the job number is 1001, which is my stock job. And then these are the piece marks. I just basically said it was an 8-inch, and then I put today's date. And now they can be just produced just like regular pieces. So if I come in here and I say, okay, we actually poured this bed, I'm going to verify that it's been poured. And so that's going to move all of those pieces into production, into inventory. So if I go now over to my engineering view edit production pieces screen, where you can view all the pieces on a job, my stock job here, you can now see where it has this third piece. It shows that we have 2 of them and they're currently in inventory. And if I were to click on the edit button, it would show you just all your regular information you're typically used to seeing, your cast date, bed position, whether it has gone through QC or not, all of that type of information. Now, if I wanted to take these pieces and actually, now that I have this job and I have these pieces in backlog, and so I want to take what I have on my stock job and actually fill out. So here I need 5 of these. I'm going to take 2 of those 2 pieces I just created from stock and move them into here, so we would only have to actually produce 3 for the job. And the way that you'd go about doing that is under production, you would say move inventory pieces, select which location you're working with, select the job that you want to move pieces from, and then select the job that you want to move pieces into. And you can narrow it down by cross section if you want to. You'll also notice that, these 2 pieces that I just produced, they can't be moved because they haven't completed the QC process. But there are other pieces in here that I've already done that on, dated, the 5/17, 5/16. And so if I were to pick one of those pieces, and then on this job, I say I want to move it into my HC08 cross sections, this is going to show me a list of all the pieces that are still waiting to be produced. Now, the piece in stock is 10 feet long, 4 feet wide, has 8 inches deep, 50 cubic. That looks like a typo on my end. I typed in my numbers wrong. It should be 1 cubic yard, 50 square foot. And so what's going to happen is when you select a piece over here, so if I say these top 2 pieces, if I were to pick this third one, it's 13 inches long. It's not going to let me even do that because it's not long enough. And so I could try to select one of these pieces, but again, we only let you select where all of the length, width, depth, cubic yard, square footage have values equal to or greater than what you're trying to move into. So if I were to select this second piece, I can now select one of these top 2 because it's 9 inches, it's 4 foot wide. These are only 2 foot wide. And then and the square footage is higher over here, the 16 versus 18. So if I select this piece on the left, this piece on the right, and select move, it's going to come up and show me here's my differences. And it's going to ask me, what do I want to do with the remaining part? Do I want to stock it or do I want to scrap it? And so we can either take the, in this instance, I'm going to just say I'm going to scrap it to get rid of it because we're ripping it. And so when I select my move, that piece over here disappeared and the piece over here disappeared. And now if I go look at my view edit production pieces, down here, it shows you that piece that I moved it into. It shows that one is in inventory and one of them is in backlog. It doesn't show any of the cast information because it came from the piece that was produced already in stock. And so it preserves all of that cast information over on the over on that job in stock. So if I were to go look at my stock job and I come in here, it's going to show you that this piece is in inventory. These ones are all in backlog, and the one that was moved is no longer showing up because it shows up here. I'm sorry, on this piece here, it shows up in a status of moved, showing that we ended up moving it to another piece. But here's the original history on production and QC. So it preserves all of your history for pouring, pre-pour, post-pour. If you did any shipping checklist or anything like that, that's all preserved underneath the original piece mark that was produced by stock. There is a report under production where you can go in and say moved inventory pieces. You can select the plant. You can select a job. I'm saying a job that I moved from. And if you don't put in a date range, it'll just show you everything that's been moved from that job to something else. And so you'll see here, today I moved this piece and I moved it into this job, this piece mark, and we ended up scrapping 18 square feet of when we cut it down. So that's what would be marked off as being scrapped. This also shows yesterday I had moved a piece and that one just matched up, and so there wasn't anything that scrapped. So you can see a history of where things have gotten moved from and moved to by going to that report. The second way you can get pieces, you can also produce pieces by having a job set up in your stock job set up with already product in it. So if I select my Grand Rapids plant job, I select my 8-inch hollow core, and I come into here, I can say, okay, for this piece here, I have one that it's in backlog, so I'm going to add that one. And then I have this piece with 4 in backlog. I'm going to add those 4 to the bed. And so these were more or less pre-planned inventory pieces is basically what you could associate them to. So we set up in our stock job, we set up this specific piece mark and we told it how many we wanted. And then we can come in here and just automatically pull them from that job because they were set up just like any other piece. And then you would, again, you could come in here and verify them. And then once they were verified, you'd be able to move these pieces to other pieces on other jobs as well. So from a production scheduling standpoint, you can do it either, on the fly if you're just finishing out a bed, primarily like with hollow core where you have an extra, 10 feet or 15 feet or 20 feet at the end of the bed, you can add a piece directly into your stock job on that pour, and then you'd be able to take that and move it to any job in the future. Or you could go into your stock job, create a piece mark for a specific cross section and say, we're going to make 50 of these. and you put them in there, and then you can go in and schedule those 50 on a bed, just look like you would normal product, except they would be going into the stock job, and then from there they'd be able to be moved onto an official job. The other way you can actually get hollow core into stock is if you had a piece in here through QC. If I come in and I'll verify this bed. And then during the post pour, if we came in and we said, oh, this first piece failed because of some type of strand issue, we would be able to create an NCR right on the fly. Production strand slip. Or if there's an issue with the concrete, concrete issue, you'd be able to specify what was wrong. There was something wrong with the batching, and then whatever your subcomponent for batching would be. And then I can create that NCR, and then I can, finish up the rest of my post-pour process. But that put that piece on hold so that it can't be shipped. QC can then continue along, finish out the rest of their process with the post-pour process, complete that all out. Now the QC person in charge of, triaging these open NCRs, they would be able to look at it, and if they go, oh, okay, this piece is 12 feet 6 3/4 inches, the first 2 feet, 10 feet of the product is actually good. What we can do for product that is set up that can be stocked, like hollow core, we can actually say recast and stock it, stock the piece instead of scrapping the piece. And so when I click on save, it's going to come up and say, okay, what do you want to call the new, the scrapped piece that we're putting into stock? And so we'll just say it's HC8 1004, and the usable length is going to be 10 foot, which would then drop the usable square footage down to 40 and the cubic yardage to I'm going to just put in 0 for now. And then you have an option of either adding stock and then incrementing and replacing that piece on the job with a new piece, or adding the piece to stock and not adding back in a replacement piece on the job. So you can choose one or the other. Other instances where this could also happen is if you made a piece and then there was a last minute change from the contractor. And so the first 2 or 3 pieces that you made, they can't be used anymore. And so you're going to have to change the mark numbers on them. You'd be able to come into here and you'd be able to stock that piece, but you wouldn't want to replace the original one because you're going to end up deleting them all anyways. And so that's why there's that other option on here too, is it's a way to get pieces that were produced into stock for hollow core because of design changes. So if I click on the first button, it'll put this, mark it as recast stock, and close out that NCR. Now, if I go to my view edit production and I look at my job, it now shows that I have a piece in backlog, 13 of them in inventory, where before I had made all of them. And so now it re-added this one in inventory for me to reproduce, because we ended up taking the other one and putting it into stock. And then if I look at my stock job, you'll see that that new one, that 1004 that I added, is now showing in here. And in this instance, when you're taking something and moving it to stock, it physically moves that piece, and so all of the information got moved with it. And so it shows when was it cast, what date, what bed, and now this is available to be put onto any other regular production job. And again, that would be done through the move piece inventory. Now, if I do go to the move piece inventory screen, and if you have pieces that are larger, so if I take this one and I say I'm going to move it into this one, you'll see that this piece is quite a bit bigger, 20 feet compared to only 9 feet. And so when I go to move, it's going to say, what do you want to do with that remaining 11 feet? I can come in here and say, create a new piece in stock, call it 04, I'm sorry, call it 0811, 8-inch, 11 feet long. Or you could use a date method, whichever method you've come up with for incrementing your stock pieces. And now when I select move, if I go back and I look at my production piece, you'll see that there's this new one now where it's 11 feet. The length is only at 11 feet, not at 20 feet. And then the job down here that we moved it out from now has only a total of 5, where before this job had a total of 6. I'm sorry, it was on this one here. This one had a total of 3, and now it has a total of 2, because we moved the 20-foot, but we moved it into a new piece mark because now it only has 11 feet left. And so now you'd be able to go in and take this and move it to yet another piece if you wanted to. And so that way you'd be able to take longer pieces. If you're making generic stock pieces, you can make them as long as you want and then just cut them down to the as you're allocating them to other pieces. So you could end up taking like a 60-foot piece, cutting it down 3 times and putting it onto 3 20-foot pieces if you wanted to, by using that method. As far as benefits for using the feature, it's if you're using different products like hollow core, barriers, some manholes, pile, certain products that you can move between jobs, or you can produce a basic set of them that could work across multiple jobs, especially if you're dealing with stuff for DOT. That's where you definitely want to take advantage of that stock job. If you have jobs coming up, what the basic requirements are for them. And if you need to add 1 or 2 additional pieces to a pour, you can just schedule them, pour them, and put them directly into your stock job. For precasters that deal with products more of like a commodity product like a barrier, they can go in and produce 50 barriers at one time and then just sell them. When they get in order for 20 of them, they would be able to just transfer 20 of those barriers from their stock job over onto the production job and then ship them out to the job site. And now they would still have a remaining 30 left in inventory. So there's a couple of different benefits that you have for using that stock component. Again, it wouldn't work for a lot of products. It works for a select few products that primarily can be moved between multiple jobs.